Do you remember what it was like to have sex in your 20s and 30s? I do, because I used to have sex all the time. But now that I'm in my 60s, not so much. My name is Linda. I'm your Back in the Groove Again coach. And today's video is part of my Sex in Our 60s series. So I want to talk about what it's like when you start noticing that, one, you're not as sexy. Two, when you start noticing that you're not getting looked at as much at a certain age. And three, what happens when you do get looked at by younger men. So let's talk about that. I started noticing around my mid-50s that I wasn't getting looked at anymore. I wasn't attracting people to me anymore. I wasn't getting any dates anymore, and I wasn't sure why. I mean, I still looked good, I still felt good, but I just wasn't pulling it in. And I remember going on, I need to say I'm single now. I've been divorced for many, many years, and I remember going on some online dating sites and getting contact and meeting up with men. But those men wanted sex right away. And of course, I didn't want to have sex right away. So it would have been easy if I wanted to have sex right away with men. But just going out and hanging out with some friends and joining different types of interest groups, that wasn't enough to attract men. If I would have went online and if I wanted to have sex, not a problem at all. Now, one of the things that I noticed is that I wasn't sure if it was because I wasn't attractive enough or if it was because I was getting fat. I wasn't sure if it was because of that. I think, when I started thinking back, I think it's because men my age, well, I'm 63 now, so I'm talking about men maybe in their 50s, they weren't attracted to women that were in their 50s or 60s. They were attracted more to women in their 40s or even 30s. That's one thing that I noticed, especially when I started talking to men, those that I met through online profiles, because at that time I was a coach and I was really curious in terms of what interested them. And a lot of the men that I talked to were really interested in looking at women try to pick up other men or women flirting. So they were really more into voyeurism, more so than meeting a woman my age kind of thing. Now, another thing that I noticed is that when I went to Mexico last year, younger men seemed to be interested in me. And I thought that was really interesting. I thought, well, that's kind of cool. So what I've noticed is that younger men, now I'm 63, so by younger, I mean anything younger than me, younger men like in their late 30s, 40s, and so on, are interested in me. So that's really interesting. So men my age aren't, but men that are younger than me are. And I think it's partly because they don't really care. I mean, they are attracted to a woman in general. They don't care so much if the woman has extra weight or not. They're curious about how women our age could please them or how they could please us. I think that's what it's really all about. I think younger men, whether they're in Mexico or anywhere else, I'm from Canada, I think younger men simply want to please. And I think men in general want to please. And I think men my age have had misfortunes in the relationships that they've had. So they don't really want to try to please a person their age. They might think they're better off trying to please a woman younger than them. And these are just my my thoughts. You know, I have never done a lot of research on this, but by purely observing, I'm noticing that younger men are attracted to older women, and that men my age are more attracted to younger women. And I'm curious to see what you think about that. Now, I have to tell you that in last year, I had a younger man living with me, and he was in his late 30s, and he had well, I don't know if you could say he had a crush on me, but he definitely made passes. He made it quite obvious that he was interested in me. And I remember one night we were on the couch and he made a pass at me, and we had had a few glasses of wine, and of course I never was thinking at all about having sex with that guy. I mean, he's my son's age, for God's sakes, right? So the values kicked in right away. Are you kidding me? I can't do that. But then again, I started thinking of another person that I had met a few years ago who was a bit older. He wasn't my son's age. He was older than my son. And that was fine. You know, not that I had sex with him, but I definitely was interested in him. So isn't it funny how our values might kick in some cases? My values, let me personalize that. My values kicked in. Now, when I was in my 20s or 30s, I didn't really care much about values. I shared in other videos that I committed adultery when I was married, and I didn't really care about the marriage institution, for example. I didn't really think much about, at that time, about what I was doing or why I was doing it. It wasn't until years later that I started really doing some more thinking, more deep thinking about the why I was doing it. You know, and I won't get into that in this video, but suffice to say that the values didn't kick in when I was in my 20s and even 30s. But they certainly kicked in more when I was in my 50s. So I don't know if that influences you at all, as moral values, right? The whole question of morality and what's right and what's wrong, that might influence our sex in our 60s as well. So it's a really, really fascinating subject, so interesting, in fact, that I'm actually thinking of coming up with a program for women all about sex in our 60s. And this is just something that I'm toying with. I'm going to do more videos, of course, on that. And you might also check out my other videos that I've created on this particular series. But if you are interested in hearing more about the course that I'm developing, just add a comment in the comment section and I'll keep you posted. I'm not sure yet what it's going to look like. I still have to do a little bit of research, and if you're interested in being part of my research or my survey, nothing too elaborate. I'm curious what you might want to learn, or what frightens you about considering having sex in your 60s, or even maybe you're not even interested in having sex in your 60s and you simply want to start feeling sexy again, right? I think that's an important thing for women our age. It might not be so much about the quantity of sex, but more the quality of sex. I think that's really, really important, right? Because as we get older, and I don't particularly have any aches or pains or anything like that, but I know some of my friends do. They might not feel comfortable, physically comfortable in having sex, but when it comes to touching and when it comes to caressing, well, that's a whole other story, right? Well, and oral sex is a whole other conversation altogether. So those are more the quality of the relationship that you want. Maybe that's what it's all about for you as well. So listen, I just wanted to tell you that I'm really thinking of developing a course, and if you're interested, please write a comment in the comment section, and if you want to know more, subscribe to my YouTube channel. I don't always talk about sex in our 60s. I talk about how to get your groove back, and I think sex is one way to get our groove back, or feeling sexy again is one way to get our groove back. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for more video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Talk to you soon.